the Smithtown Spotlight. I'm Bobby Rabbit, and today we are at a fantastic Italian restaurant right
I'm
here
your
in
host, Jeff
Smithtown.
Shalero. Riddle me this, where can you find the likes of Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man here in Smithtown?
Hi,
Right
I'm
here.
Kenny Bernardini, and welcome to Smithtown Spotlight. Today I'm at Hoyt Farm, a beautiful nature preserve here in the middle of Comac. Have you ever wanted to get away? Have you ever wanted to get away? Have you ever wanted to get away? Have you ever wanted to get away?
The First Presbyterian Church of Smithtown is not just a building, but people. The people of Smithtown are heirs to a landmark. We're very fortunate in Smithtown that we have that church, kind of a landmark on our main street and 111. It hasn't been there all that long in terms of the town's history, and the first church was way down in Nessaquag, and that was the church that Richard Smith and his sons erected for worship in their little town of Nessaquag way back in the beginning of the settlement of Smithtown. The first meeting house was built near the mouth of the Nessaquag River. A monument marks its location. They actually dismantled the little church, brought it up here and erected on this corner in 1750. And that was the only church in town. Those folks all came to this church to worship, and there was no other church in the immediate area. That church stood on the corner. It was there through the Revolution.
Then by 1823, they had outgrown that little structure and they wanted to build a new facility, so they built this sanctuary that we're in right now. And that was completed in 1825 and dedicated in 1827. We've been here with add-ons and growth and continued to grow with the community ever since.
Anytime you look at these early churches, they're interesting because you have to envision a stripped-down church to begin with, because that's the way they all began, especially congregational churches, you know. There were no stained glass windows in those churches. There was never much ornamentation. One of the more interesting things about the Presbyterian Church is that when you walk into the church, you see these box pews, and you're not immediately aware of them until you sit down in them. And when you sit down, you're sitting on a bench seat with a cushion, and you're in a row, but the row is kind of boxed in, and it has a door at the end of the pew. And they're actual names of the members of the congregation who purchased those pews for their family. And that seems odd, but when you realize that that was the way that the church really had money to pay the minister his salary, then you understand that it's no different than being in the Catholic Church and they tithe you for so much every year. That was your tithe, really, was to buy your pew. So that may sound strange, but it really wasn't. Of course, the best seats in the house and the most expensive ones are the closest ones to the pulpit. Even if the Presbyterian Church were to suddenly tomorrow up and leave, it wouldn't change the fact that that's a very important structure to the history of the town. And I would hope that future generations, whether they're Presbyterian or Catholic, want to preserve that church for all time. People see the church as a landmark, but the community recognizes them for a lot more.
The church is involved with 6 other houses of worship in the Smithtown Emergency Food Pantry. That's located on the corner of Edgewater and Brookside Road. It's the parish house of St. Thomas of Canterbury Episcopal Church, and we are quite involved in volunteer work with them.
The Smithtown Township Emergency Food Pantry was started 27 years ago by 7 of the churches in town to meet a need for people who were hungry. 27 years ago, people said, Smithtown doesn't need a food pantry. Well, 27 years later, we're still there, we're still working. We used to do maybe 400 families, then 500. We've almost doubled in the last 4 years how many families we've helped. We are an emergency food pantry. We used to say they could come every 3 months. We now allow families to come every month. We are open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 12. All you have to do is come in, say you need food. We do ask for an ID. We then fill out a card on you. The only thing we ask is the members of your family, their ages, relationships, just so that we can better serve you. We don't ask for any proof of need. We just believe that if they come, they need food. With the economy, with the prices here, people just aren't making it. We are taking care of the working poor. What makes our pantry very special and unique is that it is maintained by the 7 churches and the community. We get no federal funding. We belong to no large organizations. Everything comes from this fabulous Smithtown community. The businesses, the business organizations, the fraternal organizations, the schools, and many of the other local churches and the temple have donated to us so that we are completely maintained. It's neighbors taking care of neighbors.
We have been involved with every Christmas with a program we called Adopt an Angel. And this past Christmas time, we helped 250 different families with gifts, people who would have difficulty providing much Christmas for their family. And so we did that kind of thing. We're actively involved with Bread for the World, which is a bipartisan Christian citizens lobbying group that lobbies Congress for legislation to benefit hungry people. So we're very involved with that kind of thing. We open our building to any number of 12-step groups, to any number of community service groups, the Mental Health Association, the Smithtown Community Band, and the list goes on and on. I've estimated as many as 800 different people moving through this space every week that are not a part of the congregation. So our value is to be a church not only in the community, but for the community. Music is a very important part of our worship life, our church life, and all of our worship services, and we have a number of people involved. Our organist is Pablo Lavandera. He brings the rich heritage of his home country, which is Argentina, and Dr. Lavandera has recently received his doctorate in piano. His first instrument is not the organ, but he has done wonderfully in adapting to the organ and is very, very committed to playing the organ to accompany worship services.
The difference between playing the piano and organ is that the piano has only one kind of sound that you, of course, can vary according to your touch. But the organ is like a small orchestra in the sense that you get to choose many different kind of sounds that are related to the strings and the winds according to the stops that you press. The organ has this continuity on the sound that the more percussive instrument like the piano doesn't have. So it's like a small orchestra. I think that the organ has this sort of eternal sound.
He's an extremely talented musician, a wonderful person to work with, and just the congregation just absolutely loves him.
It's been a wonderful position. I think playing organ in a church is a very important thing. The church itself, of course, is a very open church, very friendly, warm. I made great friendships here as well. So it's a great job in both sides, in the professional side and the personal side as well.
The Protestant tradition has a strong tradition of hymn singing. We also have a sanctuary choir that sings. We have a children's choir, and so they sing from time to time, and we have a handbell choir. So music is a very important part of our worship life, our church life, and all of our worship services.
The village preschool was started by the church for the community. Although it is housed in the church, it is a co-op and has its own board and staff.
We're here from 9:30 to 12:30, basically 5 days a week. We have a 2-year-old program, which is 2 days a week, a 3-year-old program, which is either 3 or 2 days a week, and a 4-year-old program, which can be up to 5 days a week. We're trying to prepare them for life and for school. So we try to give them values that will work for themselves and for their neighbors. And we try to give them skills that will help them all through life, to learn, to question, to create. We're very big on creating because I feel nowadays a lot of things with the computers and with television, a lot of things are fed to children. So I think they need to have a chance to make decisions on their own, come to conclusions, explore, fail. They have to know how to fail. They have to be free to fail. That's what we try to do here. We try to give them a lot of control of their own life. The church has been wonderful. We actually are part of the church, but we're non-denominational. We don't teach any religion whatsoever. As I said, we do teach values that are, do unto others type of thing. The church has been wonderful because we have such facilities here. They let us use everything. Anything we want, we can use. So we're having dance in here now, which is not part of our classrooms. And they're wonderful. Anything that we need, they do for us. The advantage of a preschool that is cooperative is that you are always involved with your child on a level that you will never be again. And you get to see them interacting with other children. Anything you have to know about your child, you know right away, because there's a tremendous communication between the teachers and the parents. All the teachers here started out as parents of children here, and then they were on the board. So it's a very involved, very loving, very caring atmosphere, but also academic in a painless way. In other words, your child will have everything they need for kindergarten, but they will think they are having a wonderful time, and they will come away loving school. To me, the most important thing you can give your child when they go to kindergarten is that they're excited and enthused.
The people who built this building, they built it out of a strong conviction that there shouldn't be relics. That was their faith at that time. And it just should be a place that's a gathering place or a meeting place where the community of faith should come. So they had a very spare, austere view of the structure. But those people had also a way of building these structures to take light that is almost holy. So when you see these old structures and go inside, and on a beautiful day like we're having today, you can find that the light, it almost gives you a sense of a special presence because they're just so gorgeous in the way they do that. So ironically, even though they didn't intend to have a relic or what they would view of as being anything representing God, they ended up glorifying God by building a building that was transparent so that it could take the light. And I think that's a really wonderful aspect of this heritage of architecture.
It has so many windows in it that light filters in from all directions in that church. They always have the shutters sort of semi-closed, so the light filters in and you get these rays of light that stream over the congregation. In a way, it seems like you're in a watery environment because everything around you is sort of flickering in the half-light. It just gives you a very strange sensation of otherworldliness. You really kind of get the impression that you're in the house of God. The church has become a beacon for the town. Its clock tower is its most prominent architectural feature. It has counted every moment of Smithtown's history since 1825.
It's hard for me to separate a church building from what happens there. And so when I look at it, I think of this building as being a symbol of this community and a symbol of the best of its community. There was one woman who was once quoted in saying, "When I go on vacation and I am driving back and I round the corner and see that old church, I know I'm home." I would like for people to feel that about this church, that it represents something about our community that is home in a very important way for us, that we all value.